This is the place the dead are counted, taken off a truck, put on a gurney, and into a tent. Those in Bucha, Ukraine, reeling from horrific attacks by Russian soldiers occupying the region, now being called war crimes.
We were not prepared for such a big amount of bodies because usually they do 7 bodies for months each team. We have just two teams here, so 14 bodies for months. Now they are doing 14 bodies per day. But
accountability is for a later time and place. For now, it's about removal, identification, and mourning.
It's emotional, it's very hard, but that's the job. We have to do this.
Even in the places where the fighting has stopped, the pain continues. Places like this, Bucha's main morgue, where victims of the massacre are being unloaded today. An international effort with the assistance of French forensic experts. Some of these bodies will be identified today. And 2 American volunteers, Wade Helton and Daryl Lovelace, veterans who came here on their own accord to help handle the victims of war.
I was raised that's the greatest love you could possibly do, is to help someone and risk your life for them, and these people need it more than anybody on the planet right now, I feel.
We watched this woman climb into a truck. I think she was looking for a loved one. What is that like? How do you explain that to people?
I don't know that I can explain it. I couldn't imagine the pain that she's going through. You don't have to.
She couldn't identify the body by facial features because it was decapitated. But she started describing the clothing that the last time she saw that member of her family.
She identified a sock.
And she identified a sock and a shirt, and that was enough for her to know that that was her family member.
Those at Bucha's main morgue coming face to face with atrocities.
They see burnt relatives, they see killed people, they see killed kids like 5 years old, 6 years old.
While also providing support for grieving families.
That's a big pain inside lots of people.
President Zelensky announcing more than 300 people were found dead in the Kyiv suburb earlier this month. Bucha's mayor telling NBC News on Saturday that figure now has climbed over 400. World leaders, including President Biden, calling these brutalities war crimes.
Russia continues assault as yielding immense human cost. We've seen them leave behind horrifying evidence of their atrocities and war crimes.
Ukrainian prosecutors today filing criminal charges against 10 Russian soldiers who were there, saying an investigation revealed they took unarmed civilians as prisoners, starved them, tortured them, and robbed them. You must feel what you're doing is important, though. You're documenting a massacre.
Homicide. It's homicide, and just like in the States, everything's got. There's a protocol. Everything needs to be done just so everything can be processed and people can, be identified, and the people that are responsible can be held accountable. Yeah. Accountability, 100%.
Cal Perry joins us now live with that report, of course, showing the realities of war there. Cal, I got to think that there's families that have left that area that are now coming back and trying to find their loved ones. Have you encountered any of these people?
Yeah, we have. And the United Nations says of the 7.7 million people who have been internally displaced, 15% of them are now trying to make their way back home. And what they're often finding when they come home are houses completely destroyed, sometimes bodies buried in their gardens. As they look for loved ones, oftentimes they go to the morgue with just pieces of information, a location, a name, an eyewitness report. And it's all the more difficult to witness when they're doing it with their children. Children, obviously, who are looking for lost parents, Tom.
Cal, I can't imagine what these families are going through to try to identify their loved ones by their socks, because they can't even make out what they look like, or it's physically impossible, like we heard there in your report. You had a question for one of those Americans that's helping out, what it was like to have to speak to these family members, to have to work there. I mean, but you and your team also witnessed it. What was it like to see those families going into those portable morgues and coming out with no answers?
It was incredibly hard. Photojournalist Sam Winslade, who shot it, and I were both struck. Again, when we saw a young boy there, he couldn't have been more than 7 or 8 years old, and as a parent, we all immediately think of our kids. I mean, this is somebody who's looking for their hero, for their father, and he'll find his father likely in one of those morgue coolers. It's just incredibly difficult to watch. It must be impossible to live through, but it's one more sort of indication when we talk about this war. We often do so in such a sanitized manner about the weapons and about the tactics and about sort of armed forces, and oftentimes we forget that at the end of the line, it is these families whose lives are going to be forever altered.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.